I'm here tonight with two amazing people, and let me introduce, of course, everybody knows Dr. Neal Barnard, who's the president of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. He's the founder of the Barnard Medical Center in Washington, D.C., and author of, what are you up to, 10,000 books now, Neal? What are you going on there?
Not quite, but it's great to be back with you.
And you have another book coming out.
I do. I have been quite taken with the new science that shows that hormonal conditions, the things that we thought we were just stuck with, can be changed by eating differently. And so I have a book called Your Body, Imbalance, and I'm very excited about it. It's not out yet, but it's coming.
Coming soon to a theater near you.
Yes.
All right. And my other guest is LaRay Seier, who is the founder of the pod in Tullahoma, Tennessee. And it's called Plant-Based Tullahoma. So you can find her on Facebook. And she's a registered nurse, and she has got this amazing story to tell about how she has lived plant-based. I mean, not just her, but her whole family. So tonight's topic is going to tie in, amazingly so, Neal, into your book about thyroid. So let's start off with some of the basic. What is the endocrine system?
Okay, the endocrine system is a system of controls. It's the way your body works to control things. So, for example, let's say you need to absorb sugar, so your pancreas, which is behind your belly button, makes the hormone insulin, which then travels in the blood to your muscles and to your liver to let the sugar into the cells. Well, thyroid is the same way. Your thyroid gland, which is at the base of your neck, makes thyroid hormone. And that travels in your bloodstream to change your metabolism and to affect your body chemistry in many different ways. So basically the endocrine system, whether it's thyroid hormone or growth hormone or insulin or many other things, is a signaling system where the hormones travel to different parts of the body to tell them, ramp it up, turn it down, or change it in some other way.
So the thyroid is part of the endocrine system, right?
That's
What
right.
is the thyroid?
Thyroid is a gland. It's, as I mentioned, at the base of the neck. And if you could look at it, it looks sort of like a little butterfly that's right here underneath your thyroid cartilage. It's regulating lots of things, but it regulates body temperature and metabolism and other things. And so if it's not working right, you'll know it because you're feeling cold and sluggish and tired. And I often think of it, it's sort of like for Star Trek fans, your thyroid gland is Scotty, the guy in the engine room who James T. Kirk always says, Scotty, I need more power. And Scotty would say, Captain, there's only so much I can do here. But Scotty is your thyroid gland. When you need more power, your thyroid gland provides it. And if Scotty takes a snooze, you don't have any power. And you can feel it. You're just sluggish and your body's kind of shutting down.
Okay. Well, how can I tell if my thyroid's working okay? Are there symptoms? What's going on there?
Can be subtle. For many people, it's just really vague things. I'm feeling cold. I'm feeling tired. It can get a lot more complicated than that. For many people, it's not much more than that. I'm gaining a little bit of weight, but then so is everybody else. So you think, is it my thyroid or not? My digestive tract, I'm getting more constipated, I'm real fatigued. But then sometimes it gets worse. And when it gets worse, it can turn into all kinds of other things. And not usually, but there are times where people get a goiter. That's where you see a swelling in the thyroid gland. And their eyelids may droop and their speech will be affected. But in most cases, you don't really see that.
So I know you can do blood work and have measured TSH. What is that?
Yeah, thyroid stimulating hormone. The thyroid stimulating hormone stimulates the thyroid. It says, let's make more thyroid hormone. And so if your thyroid is not doing its job and it's not producing much, your TSH level goes up because it's trying to tell the thyroid, hey, come on, let's make some more. We really need more. So your TSH level that's high, thyroid stimulating hormone that's high, means somehow your thyroid is not doing its job and you're low in thyroid hormone.
So we have two types of thyroid disease. We have hypothyroidism. What is that?
Yeah, you can be hypo, which means you're too low. You could be hyper, which means you're too high. So far we've been talking about hypothyroidism. That's where the thyroid gland is being sluggish. And so that's when typically people will gain a little bit of weight. They'll feel cold, kind of tired and sluggish. Hyperthyroidism is the opposite. revved up, feeling warm, that kind of thing. But it can be subtle, and there are a lot of differences. There are some people who are hyperthyroid, but they gain a little bit of weight. So it's not always 100% predictable.
So what are the symptoms? I mean, is there any differences in the symptoms between hypo and hyper?
Oh, yeah. I've been talking about hypo as being really shutting down, and hyper really is the opposite. Instead of feeling sluggish, you might feel revved up, maybe even irritable, nervous. You might find that you're just not sleeping very well. All those kinds of things are part of hyperthyroidism.
Okay. So what's the treatment?
For a lot of people, I guess most people, they go see the doctor, and the doctor does a blood test and says, your TSH level is really, really high. And so they then prescribe thyroxine as a prescription, and they say you're going to be on it for the rest of your life. Now, I should mention, though, that there are, and for most people, that's the end of the story. They get their prescription, they take it forever. However, there are two big causes of it, and so it's incumbent on the caregivers to try to figure out if one or another of these is the cause. And if, for example, the cause is you're just low in iodine, thyroid hormone is made with iodine. Iodine's an element, you need it, and if you don't get it, you can end up being hypothyroid. And that worldwide, that's actually the most common cause. So in that case, the prescription is to get some iodine back in your diet.
Well, how would you know the difference between, like, if you're just iodine deficient? I mean, what would be the other causes?
Yeah, well, doctors can tell. They can diagnose iodine deficiency. And I said it's the most common cause worldwide. It's not the most common cause in the United States. And the reason is people in the United States usually get plenty of iodine. Interestingly enough, the big source of iodine, or my favorite source really, is sea vegetables. Now you think, what do you mean? Sea vegetables, seaweed. Could that really provide iodine? And if you think about it, human beings started out as a species in sort of northeast Africa, and coastal populations would get sea vegetables and lots and lots and lots of iodine rather. We've had the bad judgment to leave that nice sunny tropical climate and move to places like New Jersey or North Dakota or Montana, and people are not eating their nori and wakame and these kinds of things. Are totally alien, so they might not be getting that source. In 1924, the Morton Company introduced iodized salt. And they did it because so many people were low in iodine, they just thought, let's throw it in salt, and people use it in cooking, and then they're going to get all the iodine they need, and that's true. So if you're using iodized salt, 1/3 of a teaspoon of salt gives you the iodine you need. So most people have no problem with it. So anyway, but this is a long-winded way of coming back to what's the other cause? If you're not low in iodine, is there something else? And this is the big story, that most cases of low thyroid in the United States are not caused by being low in iodine. They have nothing to do with iodine. They have to do with an autoimmune attack. What I mean by that is that antibodies are being formed in your body, and they're attacking your thyroid gland, and they're turning it off. It's like putting the brakes on your thyroid, and that's the issue.
Okay. Well, so when I started my journey for plant-based, my TSH levels were within normal ranges, but then when I went plant-based, and in the beginning, it was a journey. In the beginning, I still used a little bit of some yogurt and maybe a little bit of cheese. We know about that cheese,
Right.
The addiction there. That was a tough one to give up. Okay, so eventually I cleaned all of that out. But as I did that, my TSH levels started really going up.
Yes.
And my doctor, looked at my blood work and said, that means your thyroid's starting to shut down. And she, whipped out the prescription pad and handed me a prescription. And I noticed at the bottom, it was like, it circled 4 refills. And I'm like, how long am I going to be on this? And she's like, for the rest of your life, without question. And I'm like, She's like, well, your thyroid's starting to shut down and you're going to need to have this and you're going to be on this for the rest of your life. And I'm like, no. Okay. So, but anyway, my body started, and here's what I think. I went plant-based, and, immediately you lose a lot of weight. I mean, because I've lost at this point about 100 pounds. Right. And so as I started to release fat, I started dumping out a lot of toxins that are stored in the fat, and they started coming out. And I think this is just my own personal interpretation of this, is that it started to cause my hormones, the thyroid in there, to go wonky. And it, caused the TSH to go up. And then once I started to clean out my system, then the TSH came back into with normal ranges. And finally she said to me, I think we have to take you off this medication. And I'm like, you mean the one that you were going to put me on for the rest of my life? That one? I just had to get that in. I mean, me being me. So what do you think, Neal? I mean,
Well, I think your theory is a good one, because what you experienced was a temporary phenomenon where your TSH was going up and then came back down. Now, you went onto a plant-based diet. You're still following that, a vegan diet.
Absolutely.
A diet with no animal products in it. Now, if you look at people who follow different kinds of diets, you see something interesting. Meat eaters have the most hypothyroidism, the most thyroid problems. Vegans have the least thyroid problems. And people who, say, eat only fish and no other meat, or don't eat meat but they have dairy products, they're kind of between the two. So in your case, but when you went plant-based, instead of it reducing your risk temporarily, it increased your risk. And I think your theory is a really good one, because there's all kinds of toxins that we are exposed to. I'm talking about pesticides or things like BPA.
Parabens.
Yes, exactly. All kinds of things. And they get into your body. We swallow them, we inhale them, we get them in other ways. They often are lipid soluble, so they sit in your body fat and they're just going to sit there. And there are different ways that they come out. A young woman who has toxins in her body and gives birth, when she breastfeeds, her breast milk is filled with lipid, and all those toxins go into her baby. This was yes, oh yeah. Wow. The firstborn child gets about a third of the mother's body load of dioxin, meaning you want a really clean diet coming up to this point. Now, in your case, what happened was your fat was breaking up because you're on a healthy diet and you're losing with this weight. And good heavens, you've had tremendous success. You've lost a lot of weight, but the toxins that are in there don't evaporate. They got to go somewhere. And so they're circulating in your body, and they are toxins. So for a little while, you're paying a price for that. But the good news is you came out the other side, and you're not on the thyroid medication. I presume your thyroid levels, are they in the normal range now?
They are. They have been for the last, oh gosh, and I'm just looking at my numbers right now, since 2015. Absolutely perfectly mid-range.
Right. But now you're driving your doctor crazy, because your doctor was taught in medical school very authoritatively that hypothyroidism is something that you treat for life, like diabetes. Diabetes never goes away, right?
Right.
Now, of course, we've learned, and I for anybody who's new to this, diabetes does go away for some people, and these have been surprises for us, but they never do go away unless we make enough changes in our diet and lifestyle to make them go away. But the good news is that we have control over these conditions to a degree. Now, that said, thyroid diseases are mysterious. We're still learning a lot about the best ways to deal with them. We're still learning about the relationships with food. But I've talked to many people who had hypothyroidism. They changed their diet, and their thyroid recovered. That's really great news.
It is. But I know we have a lot of, especially like in the personal care products, I'm an avid person about getting the toxins out of your life. I mean, as much as you can within this day and age. But I mean, like a lot of the personal care products have things that are amazing endocrine disruptors, like parabens. They're awful. And a lot of them are fat soluble. You see, you have that fancy word lipids. I could just go straight for the fat soluble,
You got it.
But another thing that I'm very concerned about, and I'm a chemistry teacher, so this just goes back to my background of chemistry, basic high school chemistry. I live in New York, and they fluoridate the water here in New York. And so they're dumping fluoride into the watershed. So if you go and look at the periodic table, fluorine is in the halogen groups. It's at the top. So as you go down, there's fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and then iodine, which is underneath.
All in the same family.
Family,
right.
Okay? As my students know, group, column, family, row, period. That's how we remember. So in that, so they all share the same characteristics. But here's the interesting thing, because it's related to what's called activation energy. So fluoride has more activation energy than iodine. So if you're drinking fluoridated water, then any chemical reaction that's taking place in your body, the fluoride is going to kick out the iodine within your body. So what are your thoughts on this, Neal?
I think it's a fascinating possibility. I don't know the answer to it, but it's one of those areas where I think we need more research. We need to discover this, because there are populations where the water is not fluoridated, and we can make comparisons of this type. And I think it's well worth looking at.
Absolutely. Well, let me bring in LaRay, because LaRay has a very similar story to mine. Her story is even more amazing in terms of everything that's happened. So, LaRay, please share with us your story.
All right. My story begins, well, my thyroid, I went to the doctor for my thyroid, or so what I assumed to be my thyroid. And she did the labs. And the funny thing for me was, and that was back in 2013, my labs were normal, but I was having symptoms. So I don't know if she was trying to treat a pituitary issue or something else, but it did help some, but I still had a lot of symptoms.
So what were your symptoms?
Well, I was so tired. I could get up in the morning, and by lunchtime I was ready for a nap. And it was to the point that, I was thinking, okay, when can I sneak in a nap? Sometime today. I mean, it was that bad. It was like my sole focus was about sleep, because I was so exhausted. I went to the hairdresser, and she was cutting my hair, and she said, I think you need to go get your labs done. And that's when it all started, because my hair was thinning, and I noticed it too. Dry skin, of course, constipation is one of the big things too. That could have been thyroid, that could have been diet, but that was one of the symptoms. I had, of course, weight gain. The biggest thing for me was the fatigue. That was the biggest issue I had, because,
Did you have a goiter?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry. I did. I had a feeling like something was in my throat.
Right.
And I would constantly swallow, clear my throat. And it was just like, I could feel it when I, swallow or eat or drink. It has gone down. It was, I can tell it. I personally can tell a difference. But I stopped taking my medication. I think it was back in I'm trying to go back and remember, 2017. That's when I started, the plant-based diet. In the end of 2017 is when I actually stopped my medication. And starting plant-based diet, for one, I felt better really quickly after I got out of the withdrawal from cheese.
It's a big one.
Cheese was cheese was bad. It was bad. It was really bad. I had cheese every single day, probably 2 or 3 times a day. It was bad. And when I watched the Cheese Trap, I was shocked at what I was doing to my body. Going back to the thyroid issue, she put me on 2 medications. She put me on the Synthroid, and then that was a daily dose. And then I had the Cytomel, which was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday dose. And I'm trying to remember the generic, but I took generics for both of those. And it like I said, it did help some, but I was still exhausted. So one thing that I did notice when I was looking back at my labs, my DHEA, it was low as well. And she wanted to put me on metformin, which I did take 2 days, and then I couldn't do it because it physically made me sick.
Right.
And my goal was not to get on medication. My goal was to be off medication. So when I started the plant-based journey, it just little by little, things started improving. But the funny thing, my labs were never abnormal.
And yet at the same time, your doctor said, wait a minute, you got a swelling in your thyroid. You got all the classic symptoms of it. Let's go ahead and treat it. And that's an understandable decision. But then what made you decide to try a plant-based diet for that? Because most people would not associate that with healing the thyroid.
Well, I think it just kind of was coincidental, because my aunt is what turned me on to the plant-based diet. when my daughter, we had her graduation party 2 years ago in June, my aunt came in and she had lost a lot of weight. And I immediately, the first thing I asked her was, what are you doing? And she said, I'm doing a plant-based diet. And so I asked her what it was, and she told me what it was and told me to go home and watch Forks Over Knives. So I did. And then that's when our whole journey started. My mom was diagnosed with severe coronary artery disease to the point that they wanted to do a triple bypass surgery on her. So she decided, I don't want surgery. So I said, okay, well, your choice is 100% compliant, no oil, plant-based diet. I even talked to Dr. Esselstyn on the phone, and he gave me the instructions. This is what she needs to do. And we've been doing it. And she is now, we actually have a cardiology appointment because I think she needs to have her medications for her heart adjusted because she's having, her heart rate's low now. And so there's some things going on that we definitely need to address there.
I mean,
So
she's not on cholesterol lowering medicines even.
Well, they did put her on a cholesterol medication, so she is still on it, but she's not on, she was taking metformin and another pill, and I'm trying to remember what that was. She's not taking those anymore. Her blood sugar is consistently around 80, 60 to 80 every morning. She's had diabetes for years.
And so that got a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's going to be good for her heart to get the diabetes under control.
Absolutely.
Or to get rid of it too.
Absolutely. So, and her CPAP is going away, so that's another thing. So we're little by little, yes, we're checking off the boxes of, and hopefully going to get her off of a lot of her medication as well.
And what about all these symptoms? Did your hairdresser say you're doing better now, and did your energy come back, and your digestive tract? And
yes, my digestive tract is very normal. My hair has thickened up a lot. I can tell a difference just in when I style it. You know, if I put it up in a ponytail, there's more hair there. There's, it's thicker. The texture is better than it was. It was really thin and just, I don't know, wiry. It was just not, it just didn't feel good. My weight, of course, has gone down. I've lost 55 pounds.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I still have more to go, but I'm about 30 more pounds and I'll be right where I would like to be. And then I've got, I sleep a lot better. I feel better. I can go out and cut grass, and we have a lot going on in my life. So, between we're reconstruction of the home, cutting grass, we have farm animals, I have a full-time job, and now I'm going back to school. So I feel like I can physically keep up with the demands of my life.
Wow. That's fantastic. As you were making this change, could you tell if there were certain foods that seemed to be the problem foods and others that maybe got a not guilty verdict, or was it your diet overall, or what do you think?
Are you referring to just vegetables or plant-based, or just any food? Well,
for example, was cheese more of a problem for you? Was meat more of a problem? Did eggs seem to be an issue? Or for some people, for example, they might still eat meat, but they'll stop eating dairy, and that makes a difference. Or they stop the dairy, but they keep eating meat, and that might be a difference. Or you know what I mean?
Stop dairy. Yeah, dairy was my problem area.
But
meat didn't bother me.
You went plant-based overnight.
Right. Yeah, we did cold turkey. We got rid of everything. Now we did slip and slide, throughout the process. I do still slip and slide some, but not anything like I did.
Right.
I made the mistake of ordering, like I was telling Jean before, ordering a cheese pizza because I thought, wow, that sounds really good right now. Yeah. I paid dearly, and
tell them what happened.
Yeah, well, as soon as I had my first slice, my stomach felt like it was turning inside out, and I was having the worst stomach pains, sharp pains, and it lasted for hours. And so no more pizza, no more cheese. So cheese was my problem.
Now you can have a pizza without cheese. Have you tried that?
Yeah, I have done. Yes, I have done that. I made my own pizza. Yes, I've made my own pizza. Just a veggie pizza, my own sauce, because I know what's in my sauce. I know what what's on the crust. We've made our own crust and have done it that way because it's hard to find one without oil. So
Engine 2 has a good crust.
Yeah, we don't have Engine 2 in my area. It's a rural town, so we're still making progress there. But if I do go to a bigger city, to a grocery store there, I will get, the Engine 2. But if it's something that, I have to make at home, then, I can just leave out the ingredients that I don't need. So,
well, congratulations on what you've done. That's really fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, she's not only did she, but her mom, but her daughter too.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Yes,
what happened with your daughter?
She started developing acne at age 12.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a roller coaster ride for her as well. She has seen a dermatologist, and they have provided every cream, every antibiotic, of course, the bad one that I wish we would never have tried, Accutane, and years and years and years of trying everything. And then when she went plant-based, she noticed, a huge difference, because she would have cystic acne, the painful, very painful bumps, which she still has some, but she started the McDougall acne program.
Mm-hmm.
So since she's been doing the elimination diet and doing that for probably a good solid 4 months without veering off of it, she has made tremendous improvement. She still has a little ways to go, but she's really close to clearing it completely.
Well, that must be exciting.
Oh, it is. It is. And she's, and of course we do owe it to God as well. We've prayed about it. We're very religious with our belief, and, she just said, I can't worry about this anymore. It was consuming her every waking moment.
Well, it's part of your personality.
Right.
Your face,
Well, you just don't want to look people in the eye. You don't want people to look at you. People tell you, well, you just need to go wash your face. Well, that's not how that works. It's she had a very regimented routine. She would wash her face. It was like clockwork. She had a system down. This is, and now she's gotten to the point where she doesn't have to do all that. It's not like a big production in the morning, a big production at night, where you have to, go through all these creams and moisturizers. And her skin has actually changed some, which is really interesting. Her skin was really oily before. Now it's dry. It's getting drier. She's noticed that she's had to moisturize more often because she has cut out all of the oils that she has been putting in her body. So, which was really interesting.
In both of these cases, you think hypothyroidism or acne, that they must be completely different and don't have anything to do with each other. But in both cases, we can elaborate a theory here, which is maybe my body is reacting to something. So in the case of my thyroid, let's say I'm reacting to cow's milk protein, which is accentuated in the cheese, and my body treats that cheese protein as if it's a foreign body. So your immune system, which is out looking for viruses and looking for bacteria, well, it sees those foreign proteins in the food and makes antibodies to them. Those antibodies in turn can attack your thyroid gland. And if they're attacking the thyroid, it's not working well, and then it's overstimulated by the TSH trying to get it to work again. And then your doctor pretty soon says, I think you need to be on this hormone. But what you've done is you took the offending agent out of your life, and then the thyroid can recover. And the same may be true for the skin. That's the little follicles that can become cystic with this painful acne are reacting to something too. They're becoming inflamed. And it's not, just as you say, it's not that you didn't wash your skin or whatever, but the body is reacting to something else. And when we take that something else out, whether it's dairy or oils or a combination of these things, because you can react to sometimes more than one thing. And then when you take them out, the body then just kind of recovers, which is miraculous, because then you don't have to do the rather toxic medications that are often thrown at kids as they're developing acne. Right.
And they're also, their bodies are developing, and that's what's concerning to me, is there's so many kids out there that are taking medications and, they're still developing. you know, and they haven't had children yet. And there's just so many factors involved that is concerning. And if they can change it with a diet and not have to spend countless dollars, you know, birth control pills and Accutane and, you know, doxycycline and all these other medications that tear your stomach up. That was another issue she has or has had and is still working on is her gut. And I think that ties into it too.
Well, I hate to say it, we do see this fairly commonly when kids develop acne. The well-meaning dermatologist puts them on antibiotics, and they're on antibiotics not for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. They're on them long-term, one prescription after another after another. And back in the 1950s, we didn't know much about digestive bacteria, the microbiome. Well, we know about it now, and we know you can kill it off. And you need those healthy digestive bacteria. And when kids have been, or adults for that matter, are exposed to antibiotics for a longer period of time, it does cause what seem to be long-term kind of maladjustments in their digestive tract. That doesn't mean she can't get back to normal. She can, but she's going to go through a phase where the plumbing just isn't working like it's supposed to. The good news is that when people get on a fairly simple diet and they throw out all other things and they really focus on foods that they tolerate very well, the digestive tract starts to heal and get back to the way it had been before.
Do you recommend probiotics? Like in that case?
Well, probiotics, and for people who are not sure what we're talking about, probiotics are the supplements or little pills that you can take that have the actual cultures in them. Yes, I think you can take them. However, I think what's really much more important is not, to use an analogy, the probiotics are like seeds. So I might be planting my roses or I might be planting cactus. What's really more important is the soil that I'm planting them in. So if I've got sandy soil, my roses don't grow and my cactuses grow fine. The foods that you eat really kind of dictate over the longer term which bacteria will flourish in your digestive tract. And I think that's really probably the more important thing.
How long would you say it takes to, like, especially like after you do a long-term series of antibiotics, how long do you think it would take, you know, eating plant-based, obviously, how long do you think it'll take to restore the gut biome?
Well, it starts to restore right away. But for some people, it doesn't get actually all the way back to normal for months and months and months. Speaking of how quick this can be, there were researchers in Pittsburgh who brought in a group of men from Pittsburgh, eating a Pittsburgh diet, and it was a large group of African-American men, and they took also some men who lived in rural South Africa, African men who were eating the rural South African diet. That diet was very high in plant foods, very high in fiber, and these men tended to have pretty healthy digestive tracts. What the researchers did is they said, switch diets. So the South African men started eating the Pittsburgh diet, and the Pittsburgh men started eating beans and root vegetables and things like that. And within about just a couple of weeks, they noticed that their gut bacteria were changing a lot. So these changes don't take a long time. They can occur rather rapidly. The problem then is, okay, I've done this damage to myself. Now I go back to my old diet. Sometimes those rather malicious bacteria hang around for a while, and it takes some time for them to kind of get flushed out.
Okay, I have questions. What about the poor guys in South Africa? Did their digestive system go back, or?
I hope so. The study was reported when their digestive tract was kind of paying a price. I'm hoping that at the end of it, they got back to normal and weren't too seduced by the Pittsburgh foods.
And did the Pittsburgh people go, hey, this is not too bad food and we're going to stick with this? Or
that I don't know. I hope so, because as you know, the U.S. kind of standard diet is really not so healthy. And we can learn something from people who live in rural areas. And oddly enough, people who don't have a lot of means, in certain respects, have healthier diets in some ways, if their staples are simple things like beans and root vegetables and simple grains. Then if affluence brings in the chicken and the cheese, we actually don't benefit from that.
Well, I saw that a lot. I lived overseas for 13 years and in Central and South America. And I noticed, and especially in where I live in New York, in Westchester, this Westchester area, there are a lot of people. I mean, it's like certain towns are like like Ecuador came to Peekskill, you know,
Right.
this country came to this town, and it's incredible. And as soon as you see these people that people that were living on basically a very simple plant-based diet, because meat was just way too expensive, and they might have had it once in a great blue moon, you know, but they were basically eating a plant-based, very simple diet. And then they come here to the US, and then they start eating Taco Bell and, you know, all of that. Immediately, like within a very short time, you can see, first of all, the obesity, huge obesity epidemic amongst this culture, these area in this town. Not only that, but then you start to see like type 2 diabetes being expressed, and, you know, lots of other health issues and problems. But
Yes.
you know, and I see it all the time. I see it because, like, and I ask them, when you go back, think about what you ate in South America. Are you eating that here? No.
I saw a young man. It's been a number of years, but he had come to the United States from Africa, and after he arrived, he went to the doctor because he had just terrible digestive problems, and just chronic diarrhea and cramping pain. And the doctor said, "Well, you immigrated. You're probably parasitized." So they ran all kinds of samples, and he wasn't parasitized at all. They thought, well, maybe it's something else. And they did a colonoscopy on him and all these things. They finally just decided this is just a functional problem. You've got irritable bowel, and you just live with it. 2 years later, somebody said to him, wait a minute, when you were in Africa, did you drink milk? No, it wasn't part of our culture. Are you drinking milk here? He says, yeah, I live in the frat house. We got milk in the refrigerator all the time. Stop drinking milk. And it was a simple case of lactose intolerance. He stopped drinking the milk. He's cured in 48 hours. So we see this kind of thing all the time. But I have to say, the story you talked about, that you related about seeing different neighborhoods go through this change, where the real problem hits the worst is with the next generation who comes there because they didn't have any experience of the foods from the homeland.
Right.
And now it's string cheese every day and meat tacos at school and so forth. And they are the ones who just pay such a price.
It's true. It's true. And you see within these communities, and I know when I go, because I speak fluent, you know, Spanish. So I'm, you know, one of the first ones to go talk and chit chat, and, you know, and it is incredible to see how these changes have taken place within their culture, their community, and to see the increased health risks. And I mean, it's not just this community, you know, it's the Americans, it's, you know, everybody here, you know, the sad diet.
Yes, but you know, in the same way as they westernize and they pay a price, we can easternize, so to speak. LaRay, that's what you've done. You've thrown out these foods, and now I'm guessing that you're eating more vegetables, probably more whole grains, more beans.
Yes.
These kind of, can we say, simple, healthy foods that sustain health.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, we've solved the world's problems tonight.
Well, this is important because many people go to the doctor and the doctor doesn't know, and neither do they. And they're doing the very best that they can. But I'm so excited about this new science. We don't have all the answers yet, especially for something like thyroid disease, which is still mysterious in many ways. But there are so many people who are taking that control in their hands. And all the side effects are good ones. You know, you're changing your diet. All the other kind of unintended consequences are ones that you actually want, like losing weight, getting your cholesterol and your blood pressure down, and feeling better.
Well, I just got to throw this in because I, you know, like to get this little dig in because, you know, when my blood work started coming back within the normal range, my doctor's response was, it was probably bad blood work.
The lab made a mistake.
Yeah.
I get no credit at all. You know, now I've broken her in. You know, we've been doing this for a while now, so you know, I think she's saw the light. You know, she's not 100% convinced, but you know, her response is, "Well, people aren't going to change their diet." I'm like, okay.
Good for you.
So, well, thank you so much, LaRay. Your story is amazing, and it's inspiring to know that, you know, not just you, but it's changed your whole family. Because I know you and your daughter's going on to get her degree as a registered dietitian, and you're going for a family practitioner. And you're going
That's
to open
right.
up a wellness clinic.
Yes, so we're excited.
So-
I cannot wait.
This has changed your life. I mean, not only does it change you physically, but I mean, I think it changes like a lot of your circle of friends, you know,
Absolutely.
and it changes a lot of your life. So, and Neal, thank you so much. Always a pleasure talking to you. And I look
Likewise.
forward to your book. What is it called?
It's called Your Body in Balance. Like
Okay.
you weren't in balance before, you're going to get in balance now. So Your Body in Balance comes out in a few months, and I hope people will hopefully find in it answers to not just thyroid problems, but problems with sex hormones. I'm talking about cramps and endometriosis and PCOS and menopausal symptoms and erectile dysfunction and
Menopausal.
Yep, there you go. We've got to put foods to work for those things too, and that's what Your Body in Balance is all about.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I'll see everybody later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.